Hi, everyone. We're just waiting a couple more minutes for folks to log on, and we'll get started in just a moment. Thanks for your patience. All right, looks like we've got a critical mass, so I think we'll get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the kickoff meeting for the STFM National Telemedicine Curriculum Pilot Project. My name is Steven Lin. I have the pleasure of serving as the chair of the STFM National Telemedicine Curriculum Task Force. And joining me today is Dr. Rika Bajra, one of my colleagues at Stanford University, a member of the task force and a co-investigator on this project, as well as Mary Theobald, senior staff member at STFM and director of operations for our telemedicine task force. And we have Emily, who's here joining us for tech support as well. So I just wanted to thank everyone for coming to the kickoff today. Thank you for applying for this really exciting project. The purpose of the kickoff seminar today is just to orient everyone to what the project will be all about, outline some expectations, tell you a little bit about how we selected the different sites and the timeline for the project, and really to give everyone a chance to ask any questions that you may have about the project itself. We have an hour for this time together. We estimate that the presentation itself should take no more than 20 minutes or so. And really the rest of the time is for you all to ask questions about the project. So if you have any questions that come up during the presentation itself, feel free to put it into the Q&A. Emily is going to help us bring those questions to the surface for the Q&A session part of things. But we're going to start off with some slides, some introductions, and then do a module demonstration of what one of our modules looks like, and then lead directly into the questions that you have. And we will also provide a link to the recording for the kickoff webinar for those who are unable to join today. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. We started this telemedicine task force more than a year ago with the mission of creating a new gold standard telemedicine curriculum for medical students and residents. And the task force has been hard at work over the last year and a half, and we're finally ready to roll out the curriculum to all of you. So thank you so much for applying to be part of this really exciting project. Let me tell you a little bit about how we selected the sites. So when we initially put out the call for applications, to be honest, Mary and I were not expecting the really the excitement and the number of applications that actually came in. We were thinking about maybe selecting 10 sites in total across the country for the pilot, but we ended up getting such an overwhelming response that we increased the number of final sites selected. But you could see here some of the numbers. A total of 75 applications were received to be part of this national pilot, 19 medical schools and 56 residency programs. And ultimately, we selected all of you, the 30 sites that are going to be participating in this pilot. Half of you will be from medical schools and department programs, and then the other half from residency programs. The methodology that we took was first and foremost one of making sure that we have adequate representation and diversity across all of our sites. So we were very careful into making sure that we have good numbers of rural sites as well as suburban and urban sites, and that we represent the greatest number of different states and census regions possible. So you can see here that we have 25 different states represented in this cohort, and pretty much all of the US census regions and divisions are represented as well. 7 sites in the West, 9 sites in the Midwest, 9 in the South, and then 5 in the Northeast. In terms of overall participant population, we are anticipating around 1,300 medical students and about 300 residents for a total of 1,600 expected participants in this pilot. So thank you all for applying for this really exciting program. We're so stoked. We're excited to share the modules with all of you, and we really hope that it will benefit your learners. And at the end of the day, hopefully this will turn out to be an effective curriculum and something that we can disseminate and roll out even more broadly across the country. So congratulations if you see your name on this list of selected medical schools. You were selected to be part of this pilot, and also residency programs. If you are on this list, you have been selected to be part of this pilot. Thank you all so much for participating. So some of the requirements for our pilot sites, you've all sort of seen this in the application itself, but I think it's a good idea just to go over and remind everyone of the expectations for pilot sites. We expect that you will meet the deadlines listed in the timeline that will be the next slide. We expect that sites will participate in the required webinars. There are 2. Today is the pilot kickoff virtual meeting, and then there will be a post-pilot wrap-up virtual meeting that will occur in January of 2022. We would ask our sites to submit names of all the learners that will be participating in your site so that our staff can track module completions. You are expected to require your students or your residents to complete all of the modules in the curriculum, and you can determine how and when the modules are assigned and completed, as long as it's between the study period of September and December. And then there are a number of surveys that we are expecting you to fill out, mainly the post-pilot site survey about the effectiveness of the curriculum and how it was used at your site. And then after the end of each module, your learners will be completing module-specific surveys as well. This is the overall timeline. We are having our kickoff virtual meeting. In August, we have a deadline for all of you to submit the names of your learners that will be participating in the curriculum. Starting in September is when you can implement the curriculum. And December 31st, end of the calendar year, will be the last date for all of the learners across all of the sites to complete the curriculum. And again, you have discretion at your site to determine when and how you will get your learners to complete the curriculum. And then January 25th of 2022 is the currently tentatively planned wrap-up virtual meeting, which we hope all of you will join us for to learn about your experiences as part of the curriculum pilot. And then there will also be a post-pilot survey that goes out at the same time. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rika, who will go over how to communicate with the learners, tell you a little bit about the modules before we do a demonstration of one of the modules. Rika?
Thanks, Steve. As Steve said, we are so excited to have you as part of this program. And I'll be going over a few slides about logistics. The first slide here is really about communication with the learners. Our main goal here is to be able to keep track of who has completed the modules and who might need a little bit of nudging to complete the modules. So overall, the format with which we like the learner names is listed here. It's basically a simple spreadsheet with their last name and first name. STFM will keep track of the learners who have completed the modules, and send reminders, let you know when to send reminders about learners who might need some reminding to finish the uncompleted modules. We'll also ask you to distribute a study information letter to each learner, and that will be on the next slide here. Next slide. This letter reviews sort of overall objectives about the study, but also explains to the learner that while we're asking their names at the end of the module, it's primarily just to keep track of completion of the modules. So their responses will not be identified, they'll be de-identified and aggregated so they can feel assured that their responses are confidential. Next slide, please. In terms of the modules, there's 5 total modules, and we would expect that it might take about 2 hours to complete all of them. The modules can be done, separately. We recommend in sequence, but not absolutely necessary. And at the end of each module, they'll get a certificate of completion, and that's how we keep track of who has completed what. Next slide, please. We'll be collecting some data from the sites as well as from the learners. From the sites, you've already done a pre-survey based on your application. And at the very end, we'll be collecting a post-survey. From the learners, they'll be given a survey at the end of each module, and the sites will receive de-identified aggregate results. And we'll keep track, as we mentioned, in terms of who has completed and how many students have completed the entire curriculum. So that's it. I'm going to turn it back over to Mary for a demo.
Let's hope this works a little better than it did in practice. Ta-da, there it is. So this is a page that we have created on the STFM, well, it's kind of on the STFM website, specifically for the pilot project. There is no link actually to it on the website. We will send you out a direct link when it's ready time to start using the curriculum. It goes over some of the expectations that we just went through today, but this is where your residents and students will go to actually access the modules. So I should warn you, at the same time, we're gonna make these available to STFM members. So the modules will be available on the STFM website outside of the pilot project. So it's super important that when you have your residents and students go to do the modules, that they go to this pilot page specifically and access the modules here, because that's the only place that we'll be able to track them by program that they've completed the modules that you've been assigned to them. So when we send you this link, it's important that you send your residents and students to this link to access the modules. So we are still working on the modules. The task force has finished all the content, but our instructional designers are still working on the design of the modules. We've got one that's pretty close, and that's the one that I'm gonna kind of just give you a quick run through today, so you can just get a feel for what they'll look like when they're finished. It's not quite done, but it's pretty far along. So this actually is the longest module too, about the telehealth encounter. So start with some instructions and some learning objectives for the modules, and then they can get into the different content of the modules. So this is kind of what they will see. This one, for example, has some copy, and then we've embedded videos in several of the modules. This is like a video that shows a telehealth encounter, so they can watch a real encounter. There's some interactivity where they can, reflect and click on what they've learned from the modules. Different, oops, sorry, I have things up in front of my screen and I can't see it. Some different ways to keep them engaged as they go through the content on the modules. We're working on this a little bit, but we've built in several areas for them to reflect. We're going to try to get it so they can enter the information in the module. If not, they'll need to write it down. But based on what you've just learned, what might you do? Kind of questions all the way throughout all of the modules. There was another kind of interactivity in here. Here's another example of some interactivity during a visit, how to verbalize and how to communicate. So they click on these. So if there's video that's a barrier during them, that's what you might say to the patient on the other end. So just kind of an overview. And again, another video interspersed in there to keep people engaged so they're not just reading the content all the time. So that is kind of the overview of generally what the modules look like, how they work. When they get to the end, again, they'll fill in their name, they'll do an evaluation, and they'll get a PDF showing that they completed the module. So if you wanted them to show you the PDFs when they were done, they could do that, and you could track that way as well. But like Dr. Lin said, I'll be tracking who completed the modules, and I'll send an update to you so you can send out reminders to people who have not completed their modules. So Dr. Lin, back to you.
Thanks so much, Mary. So that's the end of the formal presentation, but we wanted to make sure we leave plenty of time for all of you to ask questions. So at this time, I'm going to ask Emily to help us field some of the questions that have been tapped into the chat box or the Q&A, and we'll do our best to answer them right now.
Yes, so Dr. Biggs, Dr. Wendy Biggs has a question that was at the very beginning of the presentation that says submitting just names correct, not email addresses.
Mary, can you answer that?
Yes, that's correct. We originally had said we were going to collect the email addresses too, but just the names, and we will send you the names of who've completed, and you will remind the ones who have not completed it. So STFM is not sending out any reminders, so we don't need the email addresses, just their names.
Okay, and then Dr. Massarello says if we do not watch the videos, can they still proceed?
Yes, so there are no, there are very, very few, if any, built-in hard stops with the curriculum. Technically, if they wanted to speed through it, I guess they technically can. The curriculum is designed in a way that it shouldn't take too much time. Again, about 2 hours probably to complete everything. And we really highly recommend that everyone go through it and access all of the videos and the activities. We try to make it as interactive as possible. There are places where you can write reflections to sort of solidify your learnings. And so while we don't encourage just speeding through it like you would like a health stream module, we thought hard about whether or not to put in hard stops, and ultimately decided that we were not going to litter the curriculum with hard stops. Is that accurate, Mary? I just want to make sure I didn't say anything that was inaccurate.
That is completely accurate. We had a lot of discussion about should we not, and decided that they either want to learn it or they don't want to learn it. And if they want to learn it, they'll watch it.
Please watch the videos. They're really fun. I promise.
And then do students need to have an STFM account to access this?
They do not.
All righty. And then Dr. Moore says, during the pilot program, can faculty access and complete the modules? And would you like faculty feedback?
So good question. So as Mary mentioned, we have a pilot program. All 30 sites that we mentioned are going to be part of this pilot program. It's going to be done in the framework of a research study. At the same time, because of what we've heard from STFF members about how critically important these resources are, we have decided that we were also going to release the modules on STFM at the same time. And in fact, we actually already have a curriculum website with a repository of resources that you can access today with downloadable content that faculty, residents, and students can use. And so I'm going to let Mary sort of expound on this, but basically STFM members that are not part of this pilot can access the curriculum and its associated resources on our website. But for all of you who are part of this pilot program, we would like you to access it through the specific pilot program portal so that we're able to track you within the framework of this pilot and study. Mary, can you add to that?
Actually, Steve, I'm going to question that a little bit because
Okay.
I don't know that we do want the faculty to access it through the pilot study because we didn't include faculty, I don't believe, in our list. So we want them to, faculty, if they want to do the modules, to do it through the regular STFM website, not through the pilots.
That's correct. And I'm sorry if I wasn't clear.
Okay.
What I meant was we need to keep the pilot separate from anybody else outside of the pilot that would like to access it. So for all the programs today on this call, it is for residents and medical students. And that's the focus of the study and the pilot. Anybody else who wants to access the curriculum and is an STFM member can do so. That can include faculty, and although we did design the curriculum to be optimally useful for medical students and residents, I do think that faculty members who don't have as much experience with telemedicine could benefit quite a lot from the curriculum as well. But non-pilot participants, non-medical students and non-residents from your institutions who are STFM members, if they want to access this curriculum, they should access it in a separate part of the STFM website, which we can help direct. But the pilot stuff should just be with the medical students and residents that are going to be part of this study and pilot.
Right, and we will be gathering on the regular member website feedback on those modules as well as through the pilot. And also the post survey that we do at the end of this pilot project will get your opinions on what you thought of the curriculum as well. So we do want your feedback, just not through that link.
And as course instructors, will we be able to do the modules to better understand what students are doing? Maybe take the STFM member a linked module. I'm at a med school and may have questions from students, and that's from Dr. Sandra Stover.
Yes, and that sort of is tied into what we were talking about, which is if you're an instructor, a faculty member, someone who's going to be have some supervisory role over the students and residents who are completing this, you can access the modules just in a separate way so we keep the data separate from the pilot and everyone else that's not part of the study itself. But yes.
And then I have two cohorts of students, one that is currently rotating in which we can assign ASAP. However, the second cohort will be starting September or October 2021. And I am unsure if I will have the list of names by the 8/17 due date. Do you want me to send learners names after the due date or just go forward with the currently enrolled students?
I see. So it sounds like there are potentially more students that could benefit from this, but they don't have the names quite yet. Mary, what do you think about that?
I think I would go probably with the second cohort of students that start in September because the modules are not ready yet, so they can't access, your current cohort wouldn't be able to access them until September. So if you just email me separately and I'll know that yours is going to be late, so I won't be hounding you for your student list, and we'll be fine to add those additional students after the due date.
Yeah, so between the September start and the December end, there's each participating site has at their discretion how and when they want to complete those things. And if you have different cohorts of students or residents during that period that would like to participate in this, I think we just need to communicate and know when the names are coming our way so we can keep track of the total number of participants in completion. But we do want to give flexibility to sites to be able to roll this out to their potential participants between September and December. So please communicate with us so that we know when to expect names if you have separate cohorts of students and residents.
Should we allocate about 45 minutes for the learners to complete each module?
Each module, so the modules are not identical in length. Some modules are a little bit longer than others. So for example, the telemedicine encounter module, module 2 that Mary sped through as a demo, that one is sort of probably our meatiest module. There are other modules that are a little bit shorter, like the first module and the fifth module, for example, with modules 3 and 4 a little bit longer and somewhere in the middle. I would say that it takes about 2 hours for the average learner to go through all 5 modules. Probably for the longest module, module 2, it may take about 30 to 45 minutes is what I'm guessing. And some of the other modules are going to be faster, maybe on the order of 15 or 20 minutes or something like that.
To answer the other question about, I think only module 2 has the most videos, and most of them are not video heavy in comparison to module 2, the one that you saw demoed. So some of them are much quicker.
If accepted as medic school, may we include residents and non-physician UME learners like PharmD and PA?
So not like okay, so PharmD and PA specifically.
It's from Dr. D.D. Ebert.
Right. So I think for the purposes of the pilot, because we are scoping this to medical students and residents, if non-medical students and residents want to access the module and participate, we would ask them to do it outside of the study setting. And so again, as we were mentioning before, we are also rolling out the modules to STFM members separately outside of this pilot. And so we could provide you with how to access that on STFM, but outside of the pilot, and ask you to keep the pilot strictly for med students and residents for the purposes of the study.
Okay. And then can we go over the logistics of the rollout? Will participating schools get a written overview of the pilot program that includes the link to the curriculum, perhaps a one-pager that can be given to students? And that's from Dr. Moore.
Yes, we will provide all participating sites with all the resources that you need to roll out the curriculum. Just a quick word on the study information sheet. That is just a blurb that you can send out to the participants to sort of give them a summary of what the project is about. That is in lieu of a consent, because we're applying for a waiver of documentation of consent for this study, which we're expecting. And so instead of having to get written consent from every single of the 1,600 participants, which would be totally unfeasible, it's just a matter of making sure that they have read the study information letter that explains the study itself. And so we will provide all the resources that you need. And Mary, did you have anything to add to that?
No, as soon as the modules are ready, I'll send out the link to the site and the student form and any other additional instructions.
And then will we send names of students who have completed all, or also those who have completed a portion, and how many each student has completed?
Mary?
So I will send you back your spreadsheet, and there will be a column for each module, and it'll say if that student has completed that module. If they complete only like the first half of a module, we don't have any way to track that. The only way we know if they've completed it is if they filled out their name at the very end of the module. So there's no partial completions, that they either finished the module or they didn't finish. And your spreadsheet, when it comes back to you, will show John Smith, module 1, yes. And so you'll be able to see which of the 5 modules they've completed.
And I believe we answered this one already, but if we are not STFM members, can interested faculty participate, or do they need to be STFM members?
Mary, do they need
I'll
to be?
kind of answer that too. So those links that are on the website, on the pilot site, if you want to look at the modules there, you can go through them and read them all. Just don't fill out the information at the end that says your name, and we don't want to track you, but there's no harm. If you just want to see what your students are learning and looking at, you can do it through those links. Just don't do the evaluations at the end.
Okay, and can we say more about the opportunities for scholarship as participants in the pilot?
Yeah, so this pilot is, both a chance for STFM's Telemedicine Curriculum Task Force to disseminate the product that we've been working on, but also an opportunity for scholarship. We're designing this as a multi-institutional study so that we can really see if our curriculum is effective or not. And so in that, we expect that there will be scholarly products that come out of this effort. Including the opportunity to present our findings at upcoming conferences. And indeed, we have submitted proposals for STFM's Medical Student Education Conference in 2022, as well as annual spring conference already for 2022. And we are hoping to invite some of you, 3 or 4 pilot sites who have gone through the pilot, to come present as panelists to describe your learnings and experiences as part of the pilot. And so if you're interested in being a panelist and helping us disseminate some of these study findings, we would definitely encourage that. And also, if there are faculty champions at sites that are interested in actually being part of the manuscript writing process, or, I'm expecting at least 1 manuscript to come out of this at the end, reach out to us, and we would love to discuss how that might look and involve as many people as we can.
I would also note on that we're going to send you the results of your learner evaluations for your specific site. So you are welcome to write up anything you want on your own learners.
And the modules will be available to STFM members starting in September.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, at the same time that we roll them out of the pilot, they'll be available to STFM members.
And then what are the numbers of cohorts we're looking for?
Sorry, the numbers of cohorts?
It's from Dr. Martha Santa Emma. What are the numbers of cohorts you are looking for?
I'm sorry, I don't quite understand the question.
Okay, let's move on to the next one, and then we can come back to that. We will just send an email to the learners with the pilot project website, and then can log in and complete the modules.
Mary?
Yes, and you will do that. We'll tell you when they're ready, and you will let your learners know when and how you want them to complete the modules. So STFM will not do that, but you will, and we'll tell you when it's time.
And Dr. Dee Ebert says, my apologies, I'm unclear. If I was accepted for the medical school pilot, may I also include our family medicine residents?
If I would say if they are able to complete it during the study period, I think that we could definitely consider that. Maybe we can touch base offline and just take a look at what are the numbers that you're thinking about and whether or not they would be ready during the study period.
And will faculty be able to use the modules in the study?
Yeah, so I think we touched on this for a couple of the different questions, but there are essentially 2 ways that you can access the curriculum: through STFM for all STFM members, and then through this pilot study. So if you are a faculty member in a selected site and you just want to see what your participants, your students and your residents are looking at, you can access it through the pilot website. Just don't put down your name and everything like that. So we don't need to track you. We only need to track the medical students and the residents as part of the study. The other way that you can do it is access the public-facing STFM member site that will have the exact same module released at the same time.
And when should we expect our data related to our students' data?
I think that we're probably aiming to provide data on a rolling basis in terms of completion so that you can see which students still need to complete theirs or not. With 30 different sites, we're going to do our best to sort of aggregate the data and then to deliver the data in a timely manner. I don't know if I can guarantee at this time the cadence in which we'll be doing that, but certainly part of the purpose of the wrap-up meeting is to make sure that we have a chance to share the very early data with all of the sites. And then as we study, analyze, and mature the data, we'll be sharing those with all of the participating sites as well. Mary, did you have anything to add?
Yep, I would think that we would be able to share the evaluation results of with the individual sites by January or February at the absolute latest.
Yeah, I think so too.
And what are, oh, sorry.
Oh, I was going to say some of these questions have some common themes about how the numbers that they may have put on the application might be different, and can they include, other students or students that were not initially included. So I think that might be a question worth answering, because I see that theme in a few questions that are popping up.
Yeah. The reason why I'm hesitating is because we had, based off of the initial applications that you all submitted, we had sort of picked sites based on the numbers, based on all of these things. So if there are a large number of sites that have extra participants that they did not list in their initial application, that I feel like, please let us know if you are thinking of including additional learners that you didn't indicate in your application, so that we can think about whether or not it's feasible to add them in. Where it is feasible in terms of the timeline, if, say, for example, there's a new cohort of learners that you've just identified, but you can still get them to complete the curriculum between September and December, and they are medical students or residents, I think we could certainly consider that, because it's just easier. And of course, we want more data. But again, if the timeline doesn't fit, don't worry, because the exact same curriculum will be available to STFM members at the exact same time. And remember, we're doing this pilot as part of a study with the full intention that the curriculum will be disseminated more broadly. We just want to make sure that we keep the study, keep a good line of sight into the study, and make sure that we have the good numbers that we expected. We have the pilot site diversity that we planned for, and that we can sort of have the best evaluation possible. And so as far as we can, we're going to try to accommodate if you have additional learners that you did not anticipate at the beginning with the applications. And if it doesn't work out that way, I am confident that your learners can also have access to the site in some way. We'll just have to figure out what that looks like. Mary, do you have thoughts?
I don't have anything additional to add to that. No, thank you. That's good. Just reach out to me and I'll get with Dr. Lin and we'll get back to you.
Mary, remind me, student membership for STFM isn't it free now?
It's free. Yeah, student membership is free.
Right. So if you have students that that can't complete this this pilot between September and December, but you want to have them do the course in January or onwards or something like that, they can sign up for a free STFM membership and access the curriculum.
And I'm actually over, I help with membership and marketing, and we offer institutional invoicing as well. So if anyone has a list of students that they would like to get signed up, please get in contact with me, and I'd be happy to generate all those free memberships. We have, let's see, another question. We will have less participants since we didn't realize the study would be completed by the end of December. Is this a problem?
No, I mean, you're not with the pre-application, we were just hoping for a rough idea. I think that if the number of participants is not a significant change, it shouldn't be a big problem. Similarly, if you have additional participants, which is what we've been talking about, that you didn't initially indicate on your applications, we can accommodate for that.
And is the plan for the curriculum to be free in the future?
For all STFM members, yes.
All right. And we are a residency program, but have 20 home students who are on our campus. They were not included in the original number I provided. Should they not be included?
Can you repeat the question? The home.
Yes. We are a residency program, but have 20 home students who are on our campus. They were not included in the original number I provided. Should they not be included?
Home students. So are we talking about residents or medical students?
That is a good question. Let's see, Dr. Ogi, would you like to clarify that for us, please? I'll go ahead and I'll skip to another question. Let's see. I was advised if accepted for residency, we could not add on the students. Did I just hear that this may have changed?
Initially, we were hoping to keep it sort of separate, so residency and medical students. We recognize that there are some sites where you have both potentially medical students and also residents at the same time. I think we want to be flexible as much as we can be while keeping this integrity of the study intact. If you would like to incorporate medical students because you have easy access to them, they can potentially fit into the timeline, contact us and we can explore how that would work.
And then to clarify the previous question, rural campus. So students who are based in Lafayette for years L3 and L4. So residency program, but have 20 home students who are rural. They were not included in the original number I provided. Should they not be included?
As long as there are medical students or residents and they're part of your program and they have access to the curriculum and we'll be keeping track of them, that's okay. And again, we have some wiggle room. You're not committed entirely to the number that you put out in the pre-application. If it's slightly above, slightly below, we're going to try to accommodate as much as we can.
One piece of that, we are having the learners select from a list which program or medical school they're with. So if they're students and they're doing this as part of your residency program, they're going to have to pick the residency from the list of participating organizations, because that's how you'll be listed in the system, is through whatever you submitted on your application. But then they can check, there's a place on there that they check if they're medical student 1, 2, 3, 4 resident, but they just need to understand that they may have to select a residency program even though they're a medical student.
And do we have an opportunity to collaborate on the publication of the data?
Yes, so I think this is similar to a previous question. There are opportunities for both presenting at conferences and also potentially participating in publication side of things. I'll just advertise right now that we have submitted a proposal for STFM Medical Student Education Conference and Annual Spring Conference in 2022. And we're looking for 3 to 4, pilot site champions who would be interested in joining our panel to describe their experience with the pilot in a session where we would also be presenting some preliminary pilot data. And so if you were interested in that, please do let us know. Also, for those site champions who are interested in actually helping with the creation of the manuscript itself and data analysis and want to be part of that process, we certainly encourage that. And then we will be giving each site their data for their site as well. And so if individual sites and champions want to publish on their own site-specific experiences and submit for presentations, publications, that is perfectly fine as well. So there are hopefully many opportunities for scholarship, which is at least part of the intention of all of this work.
And it looks like we have one final question. Who should we email if interested in collaborating on manuscript or participating in a panel?
You can email me or Mary, and we would be happy to sort of explore that with you. So my email is just Steven Lin at stanford.edu. And actually, you know what, Mary, maybe we could just send out like a debrief email to all of the sites as well with our contact information. What do you think?
That's a good idea. I'll send that out in the next couple of days.
I think there's a last question. Are fellows eligible?
They are not on our IRB application.
And I believe that we have answered every question submitted so far.
Let's see if we accidentally, unintentionally skipped anyone, let us know right now so we can make sure we answer your questions in the last few minutes. I do see, I don't know if we did this question, but I see a question about who do we let know if you want to be a site champion? I'm assuming that has something to do with the scholarly applications, but I mean, all of the participants today on this kickoff webinar, you're our site champions at the selected sites. And if you wanted to participate in the scholarship opportunities that we have talked about, feel free to reach out to us. And our contact info will be in a debrief email that we'll be sending out. Rika, Mary, any other additional thoughts to add? Otherwise, I feel like maybe we could wrap this up.
I see one last question from Howard Sellinger. It looks like they initially thought maybe 25 to 35 students, but actually 36 to 45. We will not have last block of student names by August 17th. So it sounds like the question is, correct me if I'm wrong, is how important is it to have all the names by August 17th?
You know, as much as possible, we would like to have the names as soon as possible, because then it allows us to sort of start the preliminary tracking process. But we understand that there could be delays. There were other questions before about if they have an additional cohort of students that may be able to complete it between the September and December study period, but you're not able to get the list of names by the 17th. You know, what do we do with them? I think we're willing to work with you all on this, and of course we would love to have more participants in the pilot study itself. And so please get the names to us as soon as you possibly can. And if you anticipate cohorts of students that are going to come in later but still within the study period, just coordinate with us so that we can input those names as soon as we get them, so that we could help you keep track of completion. Well, I mean, thank you very much, all of you, for being part of this kickoff webinar. On behalf of the Telemedicine Curriculum Task Force, I just want to say one more time how excited we are that there was so much enthusiasm in this project, and that all of you applied and have been accepted to be part of this pilot. So we're looking forward to a fantastic pilot. We're here to help coordinate things and to provide the resources that you need to successfully carry out the pilot at your sites. And we're also looking forward to the dissemination of our findings and the scholarship opportunities afterwards as well. And ultimately, we're just so excited that we have hopefully a good curriculum that we can share with all of you for the benefit of our learners, our med students, our residents, and even our faculty and beyond. So thank you everyone for joining. If you have additional questions, feel free to reach out to us, to STFM staff, and looking forward to a successful project. Bye everyone.
Everyone, thank you for your great questions.